I told you guys. I told you. I told you. I knew this was going to happen. According to the Daily Beast, Trump goon gives Vatican, quote, bitter lecture amid growing rift. The Pope's ambassador to the U.S. was given a jaw-dropping telling to by a minor Trump functionary. Let's get into it. Okay, so I made a video a couple of days ago about Pope Leo's message on Palm Sunday, and I criticized him for it because he is the spiritual leader of 1.4 billion Catholics around the world. And although he's had some platitudes about, God doesn't listen to the cries or the prayers of warmongers, he didn't name anyone. And he should have, because Cardinal Pizzaballa was banned from entering the Holy Sepulchre on Palm Sunday in Israel, which hasn't happened in decades upon decades, right? And the fact that Israel didn't allow Cardinal Pizzaballa to go into the Archbishop of Jerusalem to enter the Holy Sepulchre to be able to celebrate one of the holiest holidays that we have in our Catholic religion, that was like, who does he think he is? And in my opinion, the Pope should have said more. The Pope should have given Catholics around the world 3 calls to action, very clear, very simple. Number 1, if you're in the military, stand down. Number 2, if you are serving in any sort of government office, then stand up and speak out about this. And number 3, if you're holding war munition stocks, all these weapons manufacturer stocks, then dump it. Those 3 things would have given Catholics a very clear call to action that would have actually made a difference. And you guys pushed back, some of you. Some of you said, yeah, great idea. We need more action. Some of you pushed back and said, well, you're not the Pope. Get off your high horse. Obviously, I am not the Pope. If I were the Pope, trust me, things would be way different around here. So some of you need to thank God I'm not the Pope. I'll just put it like that. But I am a Catholic, and I do have a right to criticize the Pope if I think that he's not doing enough. And I really don't. And now here we go. This is exactly why I said what I said. The Pope has power. Now we can say whatever, and we obviously, I don't know if you guys read, the Vatican Bank is now being headed by some guy who worked for, the Rothschilds forever. It's a mess, and I'm not here to tell you different. However, there are many different parts to this, right? And when you're talking about the Catholic people, and in these days, when all these atrocities are taking place, I think that the Pope needs to call people out by name. And I think he needs to be more direct. And I think he needs to use the power of numbers that he has to actually create some type of pushback that would be meaningful. And he's not doing that. And the result of that isn't that, he's respected as a spiritual leader and Trump's administration is appreciating the fact that he's not getting involved, although he's trying to, do 2 things at once that can't possibly be reconciled. He's trying to both be a spiritual leader, but also not get involved in politics. During wartime, you can't do that. You have to make a choice. You have to stick to it. You have to be strong and speak out if it's really what you believe in, if it's really your conviction. Which I'm assuming, I hope, that Pope Leo's conviction is that this war and all of these atrocities surrounding Gaza and Israel and everything else needs to stop. And if that's truly his conviction, then in my opinion, he does need to stand up because actually, and this is something that maybe we should all take, to account. When you don't speak your conviction, when you are afraid to speak your conviction, that doesn't protect you. That just makes you look weak. And if there's anything that predators love is weak prey. They don't go after strong prey. They go after the weak. That's exactly what's happening now. So it says here, top Vatican diplomat was summoned to the Pentagon for a, quote, bitter lecture demanding that the Pope get behind Donald Trump. It has emerged. Vatican officials briefed on the meeting told the Free Press that one of the Pentagon's most senior officials summoned Cardinal Christophe Pierre to meet in January, then told him that the United States has the military power to, quote, do whatever it wants, and that Pope Leo, the first American-born pontiff, quote, better take its side. Or what? You know, these types of like, you better do this, you better do that. Like, I know that Trump is used to doing that because all he's done basically since the beginning of like this second tenure of his is make threats. Ever since the Iran war started, he just ramps it up. It just makes him look ridiculous. And he's used to that, right? He's used to just saying, like, you better do this, you better do that, or what? Or what? Like, do it if you're gonna do it. If not, just shut it down. Like, nobody wants to hear that. And it's very I don't know, it's undignified, right? He's the president. This is his cabinet. He's supposed to be the leader, which means that he's head and shoulders above the rest of us, at least in terms of his composure, his self-respect, his respect for the office, the way that he acts and speaks. These things are important. This is what we need in our leaders. This is what makes the office have any sort of meaning whatsoever, because if not, then what are we doing? But when he makes these empty threats and to the Pope, you know what I mean? And this is why I said the Pope, and I didn't even know about all this. I didn't know about this in January. I'm just finding all this stuff out literally right now. So it goes on. The site writes that, quote, as tensions escalated, end quote, one U.S. official, quote, went so far as to invoke the Avignon papacy, the period in the 1300s when the French crown leveraged its military power to dominate the papal authority. Bro, you know, that might have flown in the 1300s in France, but not in 2026 America, because a lot of things have changed since then. And because of the internet, we have immediate communications with one another, and we have our opinions listened to, and we are able to join with others that share our opinions and organize. So I'm not sure why they would bring this up. Why would the U.S. official go so far as to mention, you know, keep in mind that in the 1300s, the French crown leveraged its military power, and it's not the 1300s. Anyways, moving on. Oh, so here it is. Here's the guy, U.S. Undersecretary of Defense Elbridge Colby, 46, reportedly summoned a top Vatican diplomat to a meeting at the Pentagon. So apparently, I'm assuming that it's this guy, this Elbridge Colby, 46, that went on to say all this nonsense to the Vatican diplomat. Okay. Pierre was reportedly summoned to the meeting by Undersecretary of Defense for Policy Elbridge Colby, a Catholic. I hope the Pope understands what's at stake here. And he needs to, this is why I said we need an Italian Pope. We need an Italian Pope that's going to put an end to all this BS and all this monkey business and set things straight because of this. Now you have a Catholic talking down to the diplomat of the Vatican saying, well, you guys better get in line. Or what, bro? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Anyway, a Catholic who served in the first Trump administration and was nominated by Trump to his current role. Colby is a close ally of Catholic convert J.D. Vance. Such a meeting between Pentagon officials and the Vatican is believed to be unprecedented. The Free Press writes that Pentagon brass, quote, picked apart the pontiff's January speech, end quote, referring to his inaugural State of the World address. They reportedly took issue with a passage in which Leo challenged Trump's so-called Don Roe doctrine, okay, saying, quote, a diplomacy that promotes dialogue and seeks consensus among all parties is being replaced by diplomacy based on force by either individuals or groups of allies. This is what I mean. Name them. We know who they are. We want to know, Pope Leo, that you also know who they are and that you're unafraid to call them out, because that is what would strengthen us Catholics, right? You're our leader. We're looking to you. We're looking to you for guidance and for an example. Why don't you call them out by name? Why don't you say the U.S. and you know, Netanyahu and Donald Trump, or the U.S. and Israel? Why don't you just name them so that we know that you are with us and that you're not like up here talking about these lofty things. You're bringing it back down to earth like Christ did. Bring it to us. here in the present moment with what we're living under. Bring it here where it matters. The bombshell revelation comes as Leo has publicly criticized Trump and his acolytes, first for their deadly, inhumane migrant crackdown, and most recently for the president's threat on Tuesday morning to annihilate all of Iran. Exactly. Another thing about Trump, like, we got to just listen. If you've been on the MAGA train forever and you're embarrassed to say that, you were conned and you fell for it and whatever, I get it, right? There's a lot of people who feel like that, but the country is a lot bigger than your pride. And you need to think about the nation, because think about your kids, your grandkids. Like, is your ego really that fragile that you are willing to keep, rallying for this guy when you can see that he's destroying everything? You didn't get anything that he promised you. And on top of that, he's actually taking things away, and you're still unwilling to bend the knee to reason and to logic and just take the L and say, you know what, I was wrong, but now I know better. And now, I'm definitely going to do what's best for my country, for my family, for my children, my grandchildren. I'm thinking about the future. It's okay. Everybody makes mistakes. If you haven't gotten to that point yet, get there, because shit's getting real. And Trump threatening to annihilate Iran is like, it's beneath contempt, and especially on Easter Sunday. Like, this guy's nuts. Trump is absolutely off his rocker. Where is Congress? I've been asking this for months. Where the F are they, and why aren't they impeaching him? Leo's relationship with the Trump administration soured quickly after he was elected on May 8th, writes the Rome-based journalist Mattia Ferrarisi. The White House invited Leo to return home and celebrate America's 250th birthday at the White House this summer, but he declined. Right. So A+ for Pope Leo, but it would have been nice if he said, there's no way I'm going to be in the White House with this present administration in power. That would have been, you guys, listen, you can't be afraid of saying things as they are. You have to grow a spine, because that is where you are. If you're so concerned with being safe, that's where you're safest. You're safest there. There's no 100% safety anywhere. But if you are too afraid to even speak out, that's when you get attacked. That's why this is happening. Ferrarisi writes that the Holy See considered the invitation but decided not to make the trip over a, quote, mix of foreign policy disagreements, the increasingly vocal opposition of U.S. bishops to Trump's immigration policy, and a reluctance to become a political bargaining chip in the 2026 midterms. Good for you. Now, notice that they keep mentioning immigration, and I'll tell you why. Immigration policy is a very easy thing to say I stand against that, because there's nothing at stake there, right? I mean, there's something at stake for the immigrants, obviously, but there's nothing at stake, politically, I guess. When you say to a sitting president, I don't agree with your immigration policy, that's still kind of like a soft way of like, okay, well, he's a humanitarian and he doesn't understand statecraft, so that's fine. We're still going to do our immigration policy because we have to think about the country, and he's thinking about something else. But if the Pope had said, I do not agree with your going ahead and supporting Israel and the genocide in Gaza, these are specifics. This is about statescraft, and therefore, he would have been putting himself under that, like, I am a leader. You guys are leaders. I'm also a leader. I have 1.4 billion people under my stead. And this is what I'm against. I'm against what you guys are doing. And my people are all over the place, including in your own countries. And I'm going to speak out about it. And that's going to change how they act or react to your policies. It's like, specifically with your statehood policies that aren't just, against humanity, like, in a esoteric way, but in a very real way, right? These are war crimes. These are war crimes that have been identified and defined by international law. And whether or not the UN exists or whatever, there's also the other law of just understanding that once you do something, you open the floodgates for that to happen to you as well. So the more atrocities that the United States is involved in, and the more we back up Israel and their atrocities, the more open we are, the people, our government's doing that, but we, the people, now become open to that as well, because there's nothing stopping another country from doing it to us since we're doing it to everyone else. So it's just stupid. It's stupid. It's a stupid way of running a nation. And it's, but the Pope won't say that. It's always immigration. Immigration is like this, kumbaya thing that it's okay and it's safe to mention that without there being too much political aggression, right? But as you can see, even if he's not aggressive, he's still going to be attacked. So Pope Leo needs to be more aggressive, because taking the easy way out, the soft way out, isn't working. Leo 70 has not called out Trump by name regarding his war with Iran, but has made clear his criticism is directed at the Oval Office. And again, this is the problem. He has not called out Trump by name. He has not called out Hegseth by name. He has not called out Netanyahu by name. This doesn't help him. It doesn't help him. It doesn't help us. It doesn't help anybody in Iran or in Gaza or anywhere else. In my opinion, and I stand by it, Pope Leo needs to grow a spine and be a little bit more assertive and call these people out by their names and say steadfastly and stand on that hill and be willing to die for it. I'm not going to be a part of what you guys are doing. I'm completely against it. And, Christ doesn't listen to the prayers of those who wage war, and Catholics won't either. And then he should have given us those 3 calls to action. If you're in the military, stand down. If you're not in the military, don't join. If you're a politician, then stand up, speak out about this. As a Catholic, I expect you to. And number 3, if you own stocks in war munition firms, dump the stocks. Period. Moving on, because apparently J.D. Vance is not being criticized for his response to all this, and I just cannot wait to see what he had to say, because J.D. Vance is, of course, a sycophant, and he's, keep in mind that J.D. Vance was against Trump for a very long time, and then suddenly he was Trump's VP, so I don't know what he was promised, J.D. Teal, but clearly this guy's not, he's a Catholic, but, again, the Daily Beast. So, of course, J.D. Vance is going to screw this up because, yeah, he's a Catholic, but is he really? This guy was talking so much shit about Trump before becoming his VP. I don't think this is a man of integrity. I don't think this guy is standing on anything. I think he's just an opportunist that will do whatever it takes to get ahead. And apparently he made a gaffe and he's being criticized for it. So, again, Catholic convert J.D. Vance has made yet another gaffe while discussing faith. The Vice President 41 is being ridiculed online after admitting Wednesday that he did not know who Cardinal Christophe Pierre, a top Vatican diplomat, was. While speaking with reporters in Hungary, Vance was asked about a Free Press report that top Pentagon brass summoned Cardinal Christophe Pierre to a January meeting, then told him that the United States has the military power to, quote, do whatever it wants, and that Pope Leo, the first American-born pontiff, quote, better take its side. Vance, for his part, appeared genuinely confused. With no disrespect to the cardinal, I don't know who Cardinal Christophe Pierre is, the vice president said, smiling meekly. When a reporter clarified that Pierre was Pope Leo's then ambassador to the United States, Vance quickly moved to correct himself. Oh, okay, I do. I've met him before, Vance, who has frequently touted his midlife conversion to Catholicism, asserted. Sorry, I just didn't remember the name. I've never seen this reporting. I'd like to actually talk to Cardinal Christophe Pierre and, frankly, to our people to figure out what actually happened. He continued, I think it's always a bad idea to offer an opinion on stories that are unconfirmed and uncorroborated, so I'm not going to do that. Right. So then we have a whole bunch of people all over social media. He is such a pathetic loser. He calls himself a Catholic. He should be excommunicated. Fake Catholic doesn't remember the Catholic Church ambassador. Vance is a fake Catholic, but he claimed to be a Catholic and even wrote a book about it. So embarrassing. Exactly. So this is what we are dealing with, you guys. This is the Trump administration. Not just that you didn't get what he promised you. Not just that he is actually doing the opposite of everything that he promised you. Not just that he's actually going to war, supporting a war criminal, Netanyahu, in all of his atrocities and all of his programs in Gaza, a whole full-blown genocide. Not only is he supporting him, but he's also taking it to the next level and has entered Iran and started a war with Iran after promising us no wars, and that he was the president of peace, and that he's the guy who negotiates deals, and he's not the one to do all of this stuff that all the warmongers would have done in the past, and he's the one that's going to change that. He didn't do any of that. And now, on top of everything else, on top of, embarrassing himself and the nation with his tweets and outright just blasphemous on Easter Sunday, now he's actually going after the Pope. The Pope's representative, or at least somebody in his administration, is saying to the Pope, you know what? We can do whatever we want, and the Vatican needs to get in line. So if you're having trouble, just coming to terms with the fact that you've been conned, like I said earlier, I really, really hope that you are reaching the point now where you realize that it's okay to have made a mistake, but it's okay to commit a mistake. It's not okay to commit yourself to a mistake. That's what I'm trying to say. So let me know in the comments what you guys think, whether you're a Catholic or not. What do you think about this? What do you think about the Trump administration making threats against the Vatican and telling Pope Leo what to do? And do you think that Pope Leo should come back with a little heat? Do you think that Pope Leo should maybe be more assertive, and then therefore he wouldn't run into all this? Because Trump definitely wouldn't go after him if Pope Leo was really calling Catholics to take, action. These three things that I came up with. I mean, I'm sure there are more, but, stand down if you're in the military, speak up if you're in government, and dump your stocks. Those are three, at least I think, to begin with. It's pretty good. And I think that if Leo had taken that very assertive posture, I don't think that Trump would want any of that smoke, because there's a lot of Catholics in the United States. But I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next vid.